Yeah.
There are a few rebellious rock and roll qualities Guns N' Roses have that I kind of like.
Do you ever see yourselves playing with bands like that? So?
Yeah. We're thinking about going on tour with Guns N' Roses for a couple of weeks, just for the hell of it, because it'd be a ridiculous thing. You know, it's just so funny. If you have the chance, go for it. It's not a career move necessarily. It's just it'd be funny. You know, we'd never have to worry about meeting the band or anything because they never hang around with each other anyhow. Yeah. It'd just be kind of a thrill to play in front of that many people. It'd be like a joke.
No, we didn't call him gay because I don't think we'd ever use gay in a derogatory term. You know what I mean? It's weird. There's like some kind of weird feud that started. I think Axl started talking some nonsense on stage in Florida.
So as you guys know, Nirvana never ended up opening for Guns N' Roses, but Chris Novoselic, he kind of oversimplified the feud between them. In fact, Axl himself was a huge fan of Nirvana. Even the other guys in Guns N' Roses like Nirvana a lot. And that's kind of where the offer to open for Guns N' Roses and Metallica came from. Axl wanted Nirvana to open. He even went to a Nirvana show that they played in LA in early 92. And he was there with Ed Rosenblatt, who was the head of Geffen Records at that point in time, and wanted to meet Kurt. And Kurt had no interest in meeting Axl and basically ducked out before he could meet Axl. And I think other than the 1992 VMAs, I don't know if they ever officially met before then, but they were talking a lot of smack about each other. And it really started when Nirvana started to criticize Axl and the band and basically saying he wasn't a fan of Guns N' Roses and what they stood for. But it is in fact true that Axl did go off on Kurt about a week before the 1992 MTV VMAs. He basically went off on alternative bands for not wanting to be famous and not have a lot of people enjoy their music, and Axl not really understanding that mindset. He also called Kurt and Courtney junkies and said they should be locked up in prison if they are in fact using, especially considering they were parents or new parents at that time.
Said some mean things, and then when we were at the MTV Music Awards, Kurt and Courtney said something to him. Like, I think Kurt was holding their baby, and Courtney said, like, Axl, you're going to be the godfather. You're going to be the godfather. And he got mad, and he told him to shut up. And then one thing led to another. It's really silly. And then we said some nasty things about him at this show in Portland, Oregon. It was a benefit show for the No on 9, this measure that was going to discriminate against homosexuals in Oregon. Some fascist law, you know what I mean? Franco would have been proud. But, and then...
So what was that ballot 9 measure that Chris is referring to? So it was a ballot measure in Oregon that basically gained a lot of widespread attention back in 1992, and it really concerned gay rights and adding the following text to the Oregon Constitution, which read, all governments in Oregon may not use their monies or properties to promote or encourage or facilitate homosexuality, pedophilia, or masochism. And all levels of government, including public education systems, must assist in basically setting a standard for Oregon's youth, which recognizes that these behaviors are abnormal, wrong, unnatural, and perverse, and they are to be discouraged and avoided. So the ballot measure was defeated on November 3rd, 1992 in a general election with 640,000 people or so voting in favor, while 829,000 people voted against it. So Nirvana played a concert basically trying to convince people not to vote in favor of the ballot measure. And during that concert, Kurt went off on a rant against Axl and said the following.
You know, yesterday, my wife and I were sitting in a tent at the MTV Music Awards, and we're having lunch, and Axl Rose walked by us, and we yelled at Axl. We said, Axl, will you be the godfather of our child? And he said, he stopped, he turned around, he pointed his finger at my wife.
With his bodyguard.
Yeah, well, he had like 20 bodyguards with him, and he's doing the Madonna documentary. He's got his little film camera with him.
And you had a 3-week-old baby in your arms.
And I had a little helpless child in my arms. And so he said to my wife, you better shut up, bitch. Don't pitch me any shit tonight. Because tonight was obviously the highlight of his career. See, the last night was...
He also hates niggers and faggots. He said so.
And then I said, and then he looked at me and he said, you better keep your wife shut, or I'm going to take you to the pavement I was shaking, and I went, what? What? What are you gonna do? You're gonna beat me up? And he said, you better keep your wife's mouth shut. You embarrass everybody. You embarrass your wife, you embarrass your old man, you embarrass me. And then I was shaking, and I said, I told my wife to shut up, bitch.
True story, you heard it here first, right?
So,
And then I ran into Duff McKagan. And that guy wanted to fight me. And he had 3 bodyguards who were like pushing me around. But see, that's the establishment rock and roll, see.
What?
They want you to buy their package rebellion of sitting on a Harley Davidson while you play piano with a 41-piece orchestra, just like Emerson, Lake and Palmer did in 1978. Say it, brother.
Hey, man. I'm not sticking up for Axel or anything.
But
I'm not gonna stick up for Kurt, man.
well, you gotta take sides. Either you're yes on 9 or you're no on 9, man. You gotta take sides.
No on 9, but I'm talking about Axel here. Just hang on a
You're
second.
talking about an asshole?
Man, I think you guys should let music be music, man. Let everybody express what they want, man.
Yeah.
Be it hard rock, be it Nirvana,
Right
be
on,
it
man.
anyone, man. Just let them rock the way they want to rock,
Yeah,
okay?
right on, man, but
All right?
that's a corporate establishment. Which
But
is
you
something
can't
that-
let a rock star who obviously likes to beat women and likes to control women and who likes to tell women to shut up.
And who hates niggers and
Keep your mouth
faggots.
shut. He obviously is a racist and a homophobe. He doesn't have the right to speak his mind. Well, he does have the right to speak his mind, but so do we, and he should
I'm
be
not
shut
sticking
up.
up for him, man.
What happened? And then he said some bad stuff about us on stage in Seattle, but he got booed because he couldn't get away with that in our town. And we haven't heard anything else from him, and it's basically really silly stuff. You know, I think it's kind of funny, and if I can instigate more stuff, I will, just for the heck of it. You know, I'd like to meet him. I've met him once briefly. You know, hi, how are you, and that's it. But I'd like to meet with him and maybe discuss things, resolve a few things, maybe engage in some kind of dialogue. Maybe we can have some negotiations mediated by David Geffen in his office. You know, we'll have our list of demands and they'll have their list of demands, and we'll just do some process of elimination. We'll find some common ground, and we'll have it'll probably hold like a Sarajevo ceasefire, but it'll be worth a try.
So what's funny is Seattle was the last stop that Metallica and Guns N' Roses did as part of their tour. So Guns N' Roses and Metallica played the Kingdome on October 6th, 1992. And there was a lot of things that happened at that show. I've seen different versions of the set list and what happened. Some of the papers I've read say that only Motorhead opened for Guns and Metallica, while others say both Body Count and Motorhead opened. Now, I know Body Count was taken off the tour because some promoters did not want them on the tour because of Cop Killer. But here's what happened at the Guns N' Roses portion of the show. So it was the last show of the GNR Metallica tour, and Axl basically said how good Seattle pot is, and later he made fun of Bill Clinton for inhaling but not smoking. So some of you guys are maybe a bit younger. Back in those days, if you were a politician and you admitted to smoking pot, it was a big deal. Nowadays, it's not really as big of a news thing because it's becoming legalized in a lot of places. But Bill Clinton was famous for saying that he inhaled, but that he didn't inhale, but he didn't like it. And it kind of begs the question, how can you not inhale but still know you didn't like it? So Axl also discussed the presidential election and debated the candidates. He also talked about Al Gore and his wife Tipper Gore. Now Tipper Gore she'd founded this like parental music group. There was like an advocacy group that placed a lot of like warning stickers on albums like Appetite for Destruction. That kind of hurt Guns N' Roses sales, even though the album was a huge success. And he dedicated Double Talk and Jive to Tipper Gore at the show. Axl also thanked Seattle for all the great rock and roll that's come out of the city. He then took the time to go off on Nirvana and Kurt Cobain, calling Courtney Love a whore. And before the show, Axl was accosted by security guards and asked if he had a backstage pass. And after the show, Axl told the crowd that they're going to be playing arenas next spring and to keep their eyes open if they're interested. Now, what's funny about this show is that this was the show that Duff McKagan's family staged an intervention on him. So it was around the time of the show. I don't know if it was before or after the show, but Duff McKagan was in pretty bad shape. And he told the story, I think, in his book where he said that his brother picked him up. I think it was probably just before they played the show. Duff arrived at the airport, and Duff's brother said, hey, we should go see Mom. So they drove to his mother's house, and there was a bunch of people in the room, and he kind of picked up it was an intervention. And he basically just jetted for the door and took a cab out to the back to the hotel. And it was definitely one of the more interesting moments in Duff's book. Now, I was able to dig up a review from that show back from 1992. The review read, Guns and Metallica show, yes, it was loud and long. And it read, Guns N' Roses and Metallica and Motorhead at the Kingdome last night. Some of the other setlist almanacs I've seen say that Body Count opened that show, but I haven't seen that referenced in this review. Could be just a mistake. So it says, looking down at the Kingdome floor during anything but a sporting event always feels like, when are the RVs going to get here? Where are the monster trucks? Are the sportsmen coming? Is this the home show? Last night, no, it was a rock show and 37,000 fans showed up for it. What they got was roughly 7.5 hours of lights, camera, some action, long waits, portable cans, big screen televisions, fireworks, and music. Some of it great music, some of it not. The Guns Metallica show happened, basically began on time at 6:30, basically with Motorhead starting, the reality-based band closest in spirit to Spinal Tap. If lead singer and bassist Lemmy isn't the godfather of metal, he must certainly be the evil stepfather. He and Motorhead roared and rumbled through their set like an alcoholic garbage truck. Low, mean, fast when it had to be, and ultimately comic, dumpster destroyers. At one point, Lemmy told the crowd, I want you to go out and buy the album because I want your money. The evening's one true moment of solidarity was when Slash joined in for a song. Now, Motorhead's humor went out the window when Metallica came on stage at 7:50. The band in black turned into the most consistent set of the evening, which was 2.5 hours of intense in-your-face energy, a sandbelt grinder on the super sped assault. Now, lead singer James Hetfield, still on the injured list from the burn he received in an onstage accident, performed all but the final encore without his guitar. Hetfield is no Mick Jagger or, for that matter, Axl Rose, but he got around pretty well. And the band reached all the way back to its first album during the set, highlighting the title cut Kill 'Em All when Hetfield jumped into the pit between the stage and the front barricade, slapped hands and stuck his microphone into the mob as they sang the songs Search and Destroy chorus. The reviewer went on to say, and the sound was dismal. What highs there were hideously distorted. Even the best, playing both Kirk Hammett in Metallica and Slash's with GNR, was often lost in the thunder. Fortunately, there wasn't much echo. Having the sound return would have been unbearable. So Metallica wrapped up their spectacular visual battlefield of one, and the final encore, Enter Sandman. It was a good close, and unfortunately the band didn't seem to know how to get off stage. An hour later, after the PA sounded Queen's We Will Rock You, then Perry Mason's theme, Guns N' Roses roared out with Night Train. After hearing Metallica, you realize just how pop GNR can be. But it galvanized the crowd, and the reaction was unanimous. Everyone was ready and willing to scream. This show was on fire. But it started fading after 3 songs. There were flashes of light to come, Some White Hot, Live and Let Die got immediate response, Civil War had way more kick than expected, and Welcome to the Jungle was great despite the giant inflatable bugs in the 300 level. You Could Be Mine, Sweet Child of Mine, Knocking on Heaven's Door, and the final Paradise City was stellar, but Slash noodling away on Wild Horses to Axl and Duff's vocals was awful. November Rain is an overblown production piece, although mighty popular with those ballad lovers, and Patience didn't gel. The playing was at times stellar and then just as quickly slop. Rose taking on the lumber industry, the candidates, Tipper Gore and Nirvana was lame. As were his costume changes. We already have a Diana Ross. There were times when it was easy to see why this group is justifiably considered one of the all-time great rock and roll bands, but there was many moments when the huge entertainment purely smacked of Vegas. As much as the audience loved them, a lot didn't make it to that 2 a.m. closing the reviewer closed with. So that does it for today's video, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Did any of you guys go to the Seattle show? And unfortunately, the reviewer didn't talk about the crowd's response to when he went off on Nirvana, but the other setlist almanac I looked at didn't say anything about the lumber industry and Axl's rant against it, but I know there is audio of the Seattle show somewhere out there. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys have a good day, and leave your comments in the comment section below, and go check us out at gnrcentral.com for the latest GNR news. Take care.